From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined as always with our super producer, Alexis, codename Doc Holiday Jackson. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. It is the top of the week. It is one of our favorite times of the week. It's the time when we explore strange news. Now, in all transparency, my audio might sound a little bit different. Matt, Noel, as you guys pointed out in a previous episode, I disappeared for a second. I'm still mid-adventure, but managed to find a mic. And so as you know, all of us hate to miss any episode. So I may be on and off for just a little bit here as I sort some things out, but we are still doing this amazing show. We're so lucky to have you here, folks. And as LL Cool J said, don't call it a comeback. What are we talking about? You'll find.
How long have you been here?
In a second.
Years?
Yeah. Look, people have all sorts of questions these days.
Where even are you, Ben? We don't even know.
so
much mystery.
Oh, geez. Well, we've been at it. We've been at this for a while. You get in situations. So we know that 2023 is a year full of questions. Questions like, what's going on with Teslas? Or what's going on with TikTok and the LAPD? What's going on with those eyedrops? What's the real story there? And, a question that our good pal and erstwhile guest Lucky Yates always ask us, like every time, can we bring back the Dodo? You guys remember this? Lucky's always like, he talks about it on air. He talks about his own stuff. He talks about
cult,
it when we hang out.
Isn't that his cult? The cult of the Dodo or something like that?
Yeah, he has a cult of the Dodo. Now we know we have a lot of people listening.
Doris, if I'm not mistaken,
or Phyllis,
something like that. We'll have to check back with Lucky very soon.
Yes, yeah. We're going to check back with Lucky, and we know there are many adherents of his belief system in the audience today, so we don't want to get your doctrine wrong. But we do want to tell you, one of our first strange news stories for this week's segment is something that made us think of you, Lucky. As a matter of fact, I almost texted you. I just don't know what time it is where you're at. Someone is going to bring back the Dodo. At least that's what they announced on Tuesday, January 31st. As we record this, it's somewhere between February 1st and February 2nd. So very recently, a group named Colossal Biosciences said, we're going to bring back the Dodo. We already got funding for it because they just announced another public funding initiative, a round of investment that gives them an extra $150 million, which is not a lot when you're talking about bringing back an extinct species. And then overall, since 2021, Colossal Biosciences has made a total of $225 million in investment. However, right now, their valuation, the value that investors put them at, is over $1 billion US. And that's due to their previous projects, such as continuing research on bringing back one, the mammoth, get it? Colossal Bioscience, yeah. And then two, the Tasmanian tiger. We talked about both of these a little bit. We even had an episode on the idea of de-extinction or bringing these creatures back into the living world.
Wow.
Yeah. At this point, though, to set up the convo, we have to admit, right now, there are no mammoths living, and there are no officially acknowledged Tasmanian tigers, though there are a lot of avid cryptid hunters and cryptozoologists who believe that the tiger either is alive now or died out much more recently than is officially acknowledged. And that's probably true for our money.
Well, Ben, the mind immediately goes to Jurassic Park type stuff. Is this sort of like a scientific magic trick to say, hey, look what I can do? Or is there like a real reason for doing this? I mean, again, all creatures are great and small are worth, should live. But, the dodo died out largely because it was flightless and couldn't really cut it.
Yeah. The dodo was specifically evolved to a pretty distinct ecological niche, right? And when humans came along, they absolutely upended they absolutely upended this thing. The dodo was never everywhere. It was endemic to a small island east of Madagascar. It's like you said, no, it's a flightless bird. It doesn't, I say this as someone who loves nature and loves all living things. It doesn't have a lot going for it in the brutal game of evolution. So
big eggs, which might be part of why it went extinct.
Sailors love them.
Well, I think the big eggs might be the reason to bring them back. You saw all the problems with eggs lately, guys. We need some giant eggs that we can mass produce, and we're gonna bring back dodos to achieve it.
Yeah, let's bring them back and enslave them in industrial egg farms. That sounds like a really good use of this godlike power.
Let's do an egg-spiracy episode.
That's really good. Actually, we need to.
It's very topical. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's going to be, we're making it official, folks. That's going to be one of the next things we record. And we got some great...
Dark Brandon's on top of it.
We got some great suggestions from listeners about this too. Yes. Yeah, so eggs, maybe that's the answer. For a lot of investors, the idea of a live dodo is more important, not for the specific species. I know how cold that is, but more so because the process of de-extincting a dodo will create scientific breakthroughs that can be iterated out to other less awkwardly specific life forms.
Yep.
Is that okay to say that? I'm trying to be diplomatic,
That's
less
totally
awkwardly specific.
Doing a fine job. And, I was joking about Jurassic Park because that's the most kind of gross consumery reason for employing this kind of science. But along the way, you do stumble upon some other discoveries and breakthroughs. So maybe there are species of animals that would still flourish today if they were reintroduced back into the wild through a process like this. But it also kind of feels like a slippery slope thing, like if we did, would that put things out of balance in some way,
Right.
I think if we could bring back the original bananas, like just through figuring out how to do this, bring back, like you said, other forms of life that have been gone for so long. What if this is like a future reincarnation company? Like you could bring back a specific individual within a species.
Do we know more about the science, Ben?
We do. We know a little bit about the science, and we also want to be very, very fair here. For a lot of us hearing this today, you might hear that Colossal Biosciences has not yet made a mammoth, not yet made a Tasmanian tiger, and you might think it's a grift. But looking at their website, looking at their reporting, they do have legit scientists. And, it's fine to be skeptical about this, but let's not dismiss it as saying it's just a cash grab. They actually, the way they got the funding this time was launching what they call the Avian Genomics Group. So they are clearly aware that each of these problems of de-extinction have to be tackled in a different way. If you go to their website, which is pretty slick, then you will see information from Ben Lamb, Lamm, the co-founder and CEO, along with Dr. Beth Shapiro, who is the lead paleogeneticist. So they do have world experts in this field working on these things. As far as spinning out the future, that's anyone's game. It's clear that a lot of people are thinking in those long horizons, like you're talking about, Matt. They're still thinking through, like, what could happen with this? Would it be possible to make entirely new ecosystems, or resurrect long gone ecosystems? And if so, to your point about Jurassic Park, Noel, should you? The big thing right now is the way to explain the amount of attention they're getting now is not so much people thinking in terms of sci-fi, space agey headlines like, oh, we're bringing back the Dodo, we're bringing back the blah, blah, blah. There's a little bit of PR in it, but places like the United Nations and these huge international funding initiatives, they're trying to save the stuff that's here now. Biodiversity is at a crisis point. So they're saying, okay, let's, in a very real way, a lot of these powerful forces are looking at these extinct things and they're thinking not, oh, it'd be cool for me to have a pet Tasmanian tiger. I can flex on the other billionaires. They're thinking this might give us a process that we can use to de-extinct stuff that's here now that is on the way out. So we can say, like, hey, whoops, you thought there were no more rhinos? Well, guess what? We just upped it to 7. Everybody be more careful next time. You know what I mean? They're trying to earn a whoopsie.
It does make you think about the nature of evolution and how, an advanced civilization like humanity can kind of upend that process or escalate it significantly or, speed it up. But it's like, if you think about just the Darwinian concept of evolution as it happened over a really long period of time with things just kind of occurring naturally, humans sort of upset that to a degree. So do we include humans in a larger view of evolution? And, a lot of species are going extinct because of human intervention and stupid things that we've done to the environment. Are we the anomaly? If these species are introduced back, is that going to upset the balance of nature?
I'm going to give you this is my interpretation of the answers found on the website you mentioned, Ben, colossal.com. They have a section. It asks the question, can the harm humanity has caused be undone? And below it, it says, the answer is yes. And it gives 3 examples of animals they would like to bring back and reintroduce into the wild and fully populate it. The number 1 creature here is the Florida panther, an actual panther that would just be roaming around Florida. So I think what they're saying is we reintroduce panthers and other apex predators to thin the herd of humans. That's not what they're saying. That's just what my brain goes.
That's the implication, right?
Yeah. I don't not like that.
The issue is that the boffins, the eggheads, predict that by 2050, about 50% of all species of life on Earth are going to be extinct on the way of the dodo, as people say. And the next problem is, there's very much a ticking clock here, right? There's a doomsday clock of biodiversity, and it's arguably closer than the doomsday clock of nuclear war. So what we're seeing here is that I think the Mammoth project has had a lot of breakthroughs, apparently, right? Because there's mammoth material that's been recovered. There are elephants that are relations of the mammoth. Colossal Biosciences says they're going to be on track to produce juvenile mammoth calves by 2028. But then we have to consider the other part. What if you learn some neat little genetic remixing tricks? And what if you can kind of, you remember that DJ Girl Talk?
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What
mashups.
If you can kind of do mashups? What if you can girl talk genetic sequencing a little bit? You know what I mean? To your point about apex predators, Matt, how about a Siberian tiger that breeds faster? Right?
Yeah, saber-toothed panther.
Right? How about polar bears that are cool with the tropics? Right?
Cool with the tropics? Sorry.
I think it's very far afield for us to say that there's an animal-centric supervillain out there who's like, the most direct way to make the world a better place is to kill humans not with diseases and not with nuclear weapons, but with incredibly complicated genetic splices of animals from the past. A smarter T-Rex.
Well, that's sort of what the moral of Jurassic Park was, right? Play God and you're going to get got.
Rhinos absolutely everywhere.
Some Jumanji type stuff here.
Yes, yeah. And we know that this has been occurring Like, look, this has been occurring in the world of fiction for quite a long time. And it's also, it goes through these cyclical resurgences. Fiction and nonfiction are very, very closely related, more so than book publishers would maybe want us to think at times. I know we're in odd circumstances here. I don't want to spoil too much because I think we should save it. This is not quite ready for an episode, but there's more to come on the way. So I want to end before we go to a sponsor break with one last banger piece of information. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, good. Because it'd be awkward if you were like, nah. Okay. Strategically, it's less about the mammoths and more about the capability to engineer animals and plants. This is a quote from an outfit called In-Q-Tel, which some of us may recognize as the venture capital arm of the Central Intelligence Agency.
Oh my God. No.
And we'll be right back.
Is that real?
Yes.
Oh,
And we're back. But wait, Ben, seriously?
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah, we saved it till the end. Yeah, they're throwing some cash. They're throwing some cash to Colossal Biosciences.
of course they are.
For apocalyptic type prepping, essentially. I don't know.
Idea.
Okay. All right. Well, oh boy. Okay.
For cloning,
wow.
I bet.
That was a banger of a story, Ben, with a lot of implications, and I'm sure we'll be revisiting that one in addition to an Eggspiracy episode in the future. But for now, I have a little bit, it's not lighter exactly, maybe smaller implications, but have you guys heard of this LA kind of road rage terrorist? He's almost like a serial road rager, terrorizing the city of Los Angeles, which, as we know, is massive.
Oh,
so,
jeez.
have you guys heard about this guy?
No,
No.
it's news to me.
I'll tell you in my head, I'm imagining someone in a really fast truck, like a F-150 Raptor.
Okay. Yeah, you don't see a whole lot of well, that's not true. There's all kinds of cars in LA, but they're very gas guzzling conscious, and people are frowned upon when they have like Hummers and big trucks. So you see them a little less frequently, and I think the emission standards are also a little more intense in Los Angeles because of all the smog and the pollution, because it's such a driving city, because their public transit basically sucks, much like Atlanta. So it has that in common with Atlanta. But yes, not a F-150, but a Tesla Model X has been essentially the driver of which, it's not the self-driving AI terrorizing people yet, but for now it's this fellow that was driving this car. Numerous reports of a guy driving a black Tesla Model X, getting out of the car in traffic jams, running towards other cars and smashing them with a large metal pipe. That's kind of just the common theme, is this guy getting out and smashing people's cars with a pipe. There were probably other incidents as well, because it was reported so many times that think about the ones that didn't report it. So the authorities have been looking for this guy at the very least since January 11th, when several of these reports came in, but again, there may well be others, which we'll find out when we hear about this guy's history. You guys can decide for yourselves. But the LAPD was not doing the best job finding this guy. And apparently, by the way, the Tesla in question didn't have plates, which is weird and a massive red flag. And I've read that in a couple of places, but then I'm also seeing it not mentioned in a few other stories. So that could well not be the case. But the point is, they didn't find the guy until a TikTok influencer helped, essentially, crowdsourced the hunt for this road rage terrorist. A internet sleuth is what they're being referred to as, called Tizzy Ent, who started sharing eyewitness news videos. Again, there were some, dash cam footage, I think, that was making the rounds, and perhaps some traffic stoplight videos, but I think mainly dash cam footage because people were essentially reporting and then contributing what they had to offer. But again, even with that, the LAPD wasn't able to find the guy. And this Tizzy Ent has 5.3 million TikTok followers. And Tizzy Ent said that 3 people immediately came forward with a name, with an actual name that this person then passed along to police. And this is a quote from them from ABC 7 out of Los Angeles. It was kind of shocking to hear how much had happened, how many incidents and how many victims there seemed to be. And that just reinforced the fact that this is not okay. This guy needs to get off the road. And the person in question, who was taken into custody by the California Highway Patrol on January 30th, is an individual by the name of Nathaniel Walter Radamak. He has thus far been booked for assault with a deadly weapon, and also apparently had 2 outstanding warrants. Bail has been set at $5.175 million, and boohoo, his Tesla 2022 Tesla Model X was impounded.
Well, we should also mention, I think, something important. We talked about this just briefly off air. Whenever we mention the name of someone who has been charged or taken into custody but has not been convicted, we're mentioning their name because it is now a matter of public record. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and that's because this occurs in the United States. Sometimes when you hear us not mention a person's name, it's because the laws of the country in which they were charged or taken into custody are different. But to be clear, like we know, you and Matt and I were talking about this just briefly off air. We're not doxing anybody, anything like that. And if you look at the camera footage, which you shared some of this with us, Noel, if you look at that, it's pretty clear whose face that is.
And it's pretty terrifying. I mean, some of this looks like footage out of like a Grand Theft Auto game. Dude is literally hanging out the window of his car with like a mask kind of covering, like a spandexy type mask covering the bottom of his face, with his arm, a very muscular arm, I might add, hanging out the window, wielding this pipe. And then there are multiple other videos showing him as well. And those other outstanding warrants that I mentioned, well, actually, I'm not quite sure what those specifically were, but it was determined that this individual had reports and convictions of attacks dating back like 10 years, including, assault, battery, criminal threats, things like stalking, and also there was a specific report of this person punching a woman in the face and blackening her eye in October of 2021. So Tizzy Ent actually referred to the person as a career criminal.
Yeah, and it's insane that he hasn't been pulled over just on a routine. Where's your license?
Well,
where's your license plate?
Exactly. Where the heck is that thing? That's required, right? Really quickly, guys, I want to bring up this other thing that the LA Times mentions. They're saying that allegedly this person was also involved in an incident in January 2020 where he attacked a driver in Hollywood, it says. And then it goes on, quote, when his car was searched, steroids and $30,000 were found.
That's right.
He's juicing.
And apparently I had also read elsewhere that he was selling them, that he was, part of some sort of illegal steroid operation. So again, the details aren't fully filled in all the way yet, but I think the most important detail that we do have is that this crime, like, I'm scared of getting pulled over for following too closely. You know what I mean? Like, if I was running around Atlanta, like menacing people with a lead pipe, you'd think just the basic level of police presence would have caught me with multiple instances of this kind of behavior.
Yeah, that's if we're thinking rationally, and this guy probably, without being expert psychiatrist, as we established earlier, this guy's probably dealing with some demons and taking that out on strangers. I do want to specify real quick, because I know people in California, fellow conspiracy realists, are going to point this out as well. He didn't have a rear license plate. He had a front license plate. So in California, you have to have one on either end. So still, though, I'm thinking like the same thing you're thinking, Noel, and you're thinking as well, Matt. Like how many brushes with the law does someone have to have? There's dash cam footage of things. Like why wasn't CHP or LAPD on this faster?
Right? Ooh, maybe he's providing LAPD with steroids, y'all. I'm just kidding.
Maybe
that's speculation, and I'm
honestly
joking.
It's been a long time, but I don't live in LA, so maybe any Los Angelinos out there, let us know your perspective. But the LAPD has had a bad rap for a long time for targeting minorities, and not necessarily, white folks that are out there driving really fancy, expensive cars. So I'm thinking, back to Rodney King beatings and all of that stuff. So, it is obviously a massive, massive metro area, and you're not going to catch everybody every time. But this guy was doing this thing like a lot, it seems, and had a history. Like, why could he even? I don't know why he could even get a driver's license after some of the types of accusations that I'm seeing here.
Yeah. And then also, this reminds me we should do an episode on the idea of gangs within law enforcement, cop gangs.
I've seen Training Day.
Well, yeah, we've also had some of our own fellow conspiracy realists who have worked in law enforcement writing in about this.
Well, in the recent Scorpion group thing that just got disbanded.
The Georgia program, that's Scorpion in Memphis, which got disbanded after the horrific death of an innocent man.
So police forces across the nation, obviously still lots and lots of work to do. But this is we've kind of ragged on TikTok a little bit here and there. But it is interesting when you see, this is the kind of thing we saw with Twitter, where people are like, at least in terms of geopolitics, coming to defend Twitter because of the Arab Spring and like things that social media can do that are good that law enforcement just can't do. They don't have that 5 million followers and on-demand band of armchair sleuths at their disposal. They've got, theoretically professional sleuths, but maybe they're just, I don't know, they're a little strapped.
Speaking of what Twitter can do, guys, we need to do another episode. Got another suggestion for us. The Twitter files from 2022.
This is new. I don't think it doesn't ring a bell for me.
I'm probably, of the four of us right now, codenamed Doc, Matt, Noel, and yours truly, I'm probably the most active on Twitter. And I've seen some of the speculation. Let me just tell you, if you're not on Twitter, Elon Musk has gone by the handle Mr. Twitter now, and is very what corporate America would call hands-on in replying to things.
He's what you call a reply guy.
Yeah, to the point where it's almost Beetlejuice rules. Like you could innocuously tag that handle in a tweet, and this guy, who I can only imagine is very busy, might show up to respond.
Wow. Is he that busy? It reminds me of like
the idea.
The guy from Smash Mouth apparently will vehemently harass anyone that makes fun of All-Star as being only because of Shrek. That guy will come for you and say, no, All-Star was a hit before Shrek. That's kind of what Elon Musk is up to,
which I think is a good mission for that guy. If that must be the Smash Mouth Dharma, then so be it. But on a positive note, I don't want to derail us, but on a positive note, for anybody who still goes to the hellscape that is Twitter, on a positive note, the band Eve 6, whomever is in charge of that Twitter account,
they're the guy.
Great.
But that's the main guy. He's really sort of great. A known, cool. Clever internet fella.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, I actually saw him on a live stream do a conversation with Steve Albini, who's a notoriously kind of cranky and hot take ridden record producer. He produced like Nirvana and the Pixies and stuff like that. And he has opinions about things in culture and music and whatever. And the Eve 6 guy, and he had a nice conversation. And it was part of, I think, On Air Fest. But really cool. Guy's very clever, and he I liked his vibe a lot.
Hope the Smash Mouth guy doesn't come for me for talking about his dharma on air.
Well, you can't hashtag a podcast yet.
He probably won't come with a lead pipe knocking the side of a car.
But he definitely has a Tesla Model X.
That Shrek money pays.
It's that Shrek money, right? That's again, there's a Shakespearean almost irony to it. Anyhow, the question I think that's on a lot of people's mind, Noel, is what happens next to this guy? So he is in custody. There's some video footage. It doesn't look good. The bail is pretty high. The Tesla got impounded. Do we know how this stuff goes? I can only imagine that the California court system is as backed up as every other court system.
100%.
Right?
But I think with bail that high, he's going to be sitting there for a minute. I'm interested in what his deal is to have a car like that, too. I mean, I guess a lot of people go into massive debt to get cars like that, even if they don't, have a income that warrants it. So, but what if he's some CEO or like some tech guy or some entertainment? I'd be interested to hear what his actual deal is. I did not do that homework yet. But just before we go to a break, I do want to say that the song All Star by Smash Mouth was in the movie Mystery Men before it was in Shrek. And the video for it. Remember the days when there was a song from a movie and the video had clips from it? So this was like they took it a step further where they actually shot new stuff with Ben Stiller and Janine Garofalo and the guys from Smash Mouth. So that song was always meant for the movies.
Tom Waits is great. He's in Mystery Men. Watch it for him and Janine.
I have to just do one of these how small the world actually is. Okay, we mentioned two things that are actually really close to our world. Janine Garofalo and the Twitter files, which was primarily handled by Matt Taibbi. Do you guys remember?
That was the same. We did a live show. We actually did a live show with Janine Garofalo and Matt Taibbi at the Bell House in Brooklyn many years ago.
It's weird.
They're very, very nice people. And I would say to stay humble above all things, it's probably more fair to say we were also there.
Well, technically, we went on after them, so they opened for us.
Yeah, we headlined, baby.
Rock and roll rules, baby. But listen, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with one more piece of strange news.
All right, guys. Can I ask you a question before we get started?
Yeah. Shoot.
Do you guys use eyedrops regularly for any reason? Because I do.
You have to tell me if you're a cop.
Nah, man. Nah. My eyes always look like this. Allergies.
No. Also, it's not true. They don't have to tell you, so don't fall for that. But yeah, Matt, like a lot of people, I have used eye drops not on a maybe regular basis, but you might be under the weather. You might have something that causes redness or itching in your eyes, and then you typically don't even have to go to a doctor. You can just go to a local bodega or convenience store and get, your generic Clear Eyes or Visine.
Visine, that's the one.
Saline solution.
Exactly.
Isn't that basically what it is? It's just sort of salty water?
Some of them are meant to be like an antihistamine, right? So if you've got something that's bothering your eye, it will reduce some of whatever that inflammation is going on there and the redness. So I wear contacts. So every day I use contact lens relief eye drops. It's just stuff
is this an ad? This sounds like...
No, it's not an ad.
I'm joking. It's just the way you said it. So every day I use contact lens relief drops.
Well, I do. And it's because contacts are not fun to wear all day because they can get super dry, right?
Right.
I'm constantly just dropping stuff into my eyeball. Just put it in my eyeball. Well, I'm coming with a story today that scares the crap out of me. It scared the crap out of me when I read it, and it continues to do so. The CDC, according to NBC News, has just warned that, quote, a brand of eye drops may be linked to drug-resistant bacterial infections.
Yo.
You remember those things.
Spiritual successor? This has some, I think, thematic ties to the extent of the fungal infections that have been found to spread across the U.S.
Lately, it's been infections and me, infections and Matt, hanging out, reading about each other, just going, oh no.
You watching The Last of Us?
Stories are so infectious. Well, Last of Us was great. Episode
that third episode, unbelievable, by the way.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm watching it tonight.
Are you kidding?
I'm watching
the
it tonight.
Hasn't ruined it for you? Okay, well, it's great.
I haven't seen it.
You'll enjoy it, Matt. Very interested to hear your thoughts.
I said all the bacon. That's all I know about the episode. I know he's in there.
All the bacon,
sure
bro. But the thing is, this idea of infections. Can you tell us a little more about the
Sure.
CDC report? You said they named a specific brand, or just like the idea of saline solution?
No, let's see. Well, that's what scared me, because if you read that title, it's definitely meant to get you to click on it, right? That headline, CDC warns that, quote, a brand of eye drops. So you got to click on it to find out, well, what the heck is it? Which one is it? Is it mine? It might be.
Do they say?
Not. They do. It is called Ezri Care, EZRI Care, Artificial Tears.
But that's a standard like thing, right? Artificial tears isn't trademarked, or is it?
I don't think so.
I've heard of eye drops. I've heard of eye drops. Other eye drops, I think, referred to as artificial tears. But is that a trademark of this company?
I do not think it is.
It looks like it was. It looks like it depends on where you go. Artificial tears is something that is IP in Mumbai.
There are other brands for sure, guys.
And clearly generic, because like Rite Aid has one that's just called artificial tears, which is sort of like the equivalent of having something that just says milk. So I think artificial tears is sort of a term. And it says compare to Bausch & Lomb Advanced Eye Relief Dry Eye.
But it is a specific version of this. Again, it's called Ezra Care. Now, this is the thing we have to talk about. This is why, for me, it's stuff they don't want you to know and worth talking about. This specific brand has been identified by the CDC as being potentially linked to a small outbreak of people who've been getting these types of infections. Potentially linked, because several of the people who were infected report using this particular brand of eye drops. And the reason why it's a bit suspect to me is because the eye drops themselves, like the container, it's very unlikely that anything was actually inside that liquid that caused the infection. The more likely culprit for infection being caused is because that particular brand does not use any kind of preservatives in it, specifically to prevent any kind of bacterial growth within the bottle itself or on the bottle.
So the selling point becomes the weak link here.
Right. They would argue it's sort of like more holistic or no preservatives, but that could potentially be the cause of the issue.
Yes, absolutely. The selling point could be the problem. That's exactly what you were saying. It appears that that's what could be happening. I've just been reading a lot about this. It's getting a lot of coverage right now, this particular brand and this warning from the CDC. And it really, because it scared me about my own, it says right on here, it says it's sterile. I certainly hope it is. But anytime you've got stuff entering your eyeball like that, it has to be, you have to be really careful. And like, that's why you're always told, if you wear contacts, wash your hands thoroughly before you take them out or put them in. Because if any stuff gets in your eye, it can be super bad news.
It's like pink eye. I mean, that you get that from impurities or, fecal matter and stuff getting into your eye potentially.
Exactly.
It's a very vulnerable entry point for the human system.
It's not just the window to the soul. It's also the window to like your nervous system.
Right. Because think about it. Like your mouth, if you're human, has some of the strongest muscles, right, in your body to clamp down, right? And your nose has this whole winnowing field of hair and snot to try to stop stuff from getting in there. And your eyes have tears and they have lashes.
Wait, hold on.
I just love
Was that a pun?
lashes.
It's true though, because that's why eyes are a very sensitive part of human anatomy, and they're one of the most necessary parts too. Like the reason they're allowed to be the way they are, right, all soft and squishy and pretty easy to reach, is because humans rely so much on sight, and haven't quite evolved to the level of having something better, just because for many people their primary sensory source is visual.
Yes.
Right. And I mean, that's why it's so important to wear eye protection when you're working with like chemicals or, in a wood shop or industrial kind of situations, because they're wide open. literally and figuratively. And your lashes aren't going to protect you from a piece of shrapnel shooting at you.
Very true.
So I've got a question, Matt. So if people are getting infections, and the vector is the eye drops going into the eye, does that spread to the rest of the body? Does it stay in the eye? Is it like a pink eye thing, or is it like a more once we're in the system, we're everywhere kind of deal?
There's a potential for spread, depending on how strong your immune system is, right? If you're immunocompromised, there can be a real problem, and it could spread. It could be as bad as you developing sepsis, where the bacterial infection gets into your bloodstream, which is probably just one of the scariest potential things that could happen to you, to anyone, is to get a sepsis infection. Before we get too carried away, guys, I know we kind of jumped pretty far forward pretty quickly. Let's read directly from this reporting by Erica Edwards for NBC News. She writes, "One person has died, and at least 3 others are left with permanent vision loss because of a bacterial infection possibly linked to this thing." And this is according to the CDC. A majority of those affected reported using this specific Ezra Care Artificial Tears eye drops product. Just a majority, and again, self-reported that they used it. And Erica and NBC take great pains to say, look, the infections have not been definitively traced to this product, but they are recommending that everybody stops using them until this investigation is concluded.
Better safe than sorry.
Definitely better safe than sorry. And they're saying there are at least 50 people in 11 states within the United States who were infected with this thing called Pseudomonas aeruginosa, which is, again, an antibiotic-resistant bacteria. The real scary stuff that you can't just take the antibiotics and it'll go away. You probably have to do IV antibiotics, and you have to catch it before it spreads too far.
So you might be looking at hospital time.
Yes, definitely. I'm going to give you the states right now: Colorado, California, Connecticut, Florida, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Nevada, Texas, Utah, and Washington. And one of the primary reasons outside of the self-reporting that particular eye drop is being targeted is because it is sold in all of those places pretty ubiquitously in places like Walmart, which is one of the reasons, it's getting distributed across the whole country.
And then you get to the idea of, will there need to be a massive recall of some sort? Like, how do you roll back the wave? But they still haven't found a direct link yet, right? Or no publicly announced one. They're just seeing a correlation, not necessarily causation.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm going to take us back to the beginning before we end here, guys. The reason why it's so dangerous to not wash your hands before and after you handle one of these things, I'm showing you an example. If you pop open the top of this thing and your fingers touch this applicator area, like right where the liquid comes out of, and you've got this type of bacteria on your hands, which is unfortunately very common. If you've got a preservative-free substance inside that bottle, it could get in there and then continue to grow. And like basically your whole bottle is infected. And every time you drop it in, you're dosing yourself. And whether or not that first dose becomes an infection within you, or the second dose or third dose, if you continually use it, there's a much higher chance that you're going to be in big trouble.
So this is good to know. Again, this hasn't been proven, but this is one of those stories that should take you to your own medicine cabinet or counter in your bathroom just to check. And Matt, I really appreciate the point about the importance of hygiene, because when I was using contacts quite frequently, it's so easy to say, I'm in a hurry, I'm going to be completely 100%. I'm going to keep it 100%. I had some of those, I had a couple of eye drop situations where I was like, well, there's a little fungus of some sort there on the edge, but I had the cap on. So I'm just going to like put it in my eye in a non-fungus way, and that'll be good. But this could lead to some very, very dangerous stuff.
Well, yeah, I've had situations where a contact falls out and I haven't washed my hands or anything. I'm scrambling to find it. I find it, and I don't have contact solution, so I pour some water on it, which is not
just give it a good blow.
Just throw it back in. But it's like
Nintendo's cartridge style.
Matt, I don't want to freak you out, but have you ever had anything like a particle stuck under your contact in your eye before? That sounds horrible,
dude.
Ugh,
it's the worst.
Yeah, it's not fun. It is really not fun.
Hey, LASIK, hit me up.
LASIK, hit Matt up. Yeah, you can also see stories of people who figured out they were wearing, as unrealistic as it sounds, double contacts, like contacts over contacts.
Yeah.
Contacts were a horror show for back in the day before they got soft contacts. They had those what are they called, gas permeable ones. Those terrified me.
I don't
They're
like
hard little irises. You just pop them on, and somehow you don't bleed.
Hashtag blessed to have 20/20 vision, y'all. I don't have to deal with any of this stuff. It sounds terrifying. Eye stuff is really freaky to a lot of people too, just in general, like in movies, people getting stabbed in the eyes.
Yeah. Oh, that's the way to put it. The eye is an extension of your brain.
Right.
And it's just sort of out there in the air.
Yeah.
That's why. So take care of them, treasure them. You know what I mean? Of course, they are not necessary to life. There are many, many people who are considered legally blind or have vision problems who are listening to the show now and doing absolutely fine. But you've got to take care of what you have, I think, is the point we're saying here.
Absolutely. If you want to read the official CDC statement about this, the warning, you can find it. I found it at aao.org. That's at least what NBC linked to. Title is Multi-State Cluster of VIM and GES. Blah, 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 blah. So you just put that in, maybe. Multi-State Cluster. It was issued on January 20th, 2023. If you want to read the official response from EzraCare, you can find that at ezracare-info.com. And if you want to learn more about this specific type of bacteria, you can head on over to the National Library of Medicine, where you'll learn that this is the same bacteria that causes folliculitis when you get into an old hot tub. If you rented a place, like maybe a cabin or something, like this guy does every once in a while, same bacteria. It just doesn't become a big deal.
Are you building into like a Howard Hughes thing?
What do you mean?
Are we getting to germaphobe territory?
Maybe.
Nice.
I don't know.
I'm with you. I'm with you. We should also do a Howard Hughes show, because I've been thinking a lot about this too, in places where, I'm just going to be honest, people are a little more conscious of pandemics.
Sure. They have been for a long time. I mean, how often have you been traveling, through Atlanta, the airport, and seeing people from other countries wearing masks for years?
Yeah. Atlanta Airport Customs is like, hey, everybody, please spit on your hands and give them a good wipe before you get to the front of the line, just to make sure everything's cool. This stuff is important. I would say also dash cams are incredibly important. If you can afford one, they are less and less expensive, and they are more and more crucial, not just when someone is unbalanced and swinging a pipe at you, but if you happen to get an fender bender, et cetera, it's great to have them on the front and rear of your car just to be safe. And then also tell us what you think about the idea of de-extinction. We asked about this earlier. What animal would you bring back? No rules, just right. I feel like that's a logo for some. That's a tagline. Yeah. Is that a tagline for a company?
Yes.
No rules, just right. I don't know what it is, but it definitely
is. It's something. Okay, well, what if we add that to de-extinction? Tell us what animal you would bring back and why. We cannot wait to hear your answers, folks. We're going to be coming back to you later in the week with some more messages. It's Outback Steakhouse. Okay, if you own Outback Steakhouse, what animals are you bringing back? And what are they going to be on the menu? Oh, gosh. Okay, so we're going to call it a day or a night on this one, and we will return in the near future. In the meantime, you might be saying, I've got some stories to share. I've got some leads. I've got some suggestions for new episodes. We want you to be a part of the show. We can't wait to hear from you. We try to be easy to find online.
Well, yes. Why not just reach out to us on the internet? We are Conspiracy Stuff on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Conspiracy Stuff Show on Instagram and TikTok.
Yes, we still have a book. It's still called Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. You can still buy it. You can even get the audiobook. Why not do it right now?
And while you're doing that, you can walk into your favorite local bookstore, something like that. You've got, you're installing a dash cam in your car, and you got something on your mind. You want to tell us you don't have time to fall for the dopamine cycle of social media. Why not just give us a call directly? We're 1-833-STDWYTK anywhere in the world. All around the world, 24 hours a day until the lights go off and we get black bagged. All you have to do is give us a ring, then you will have 3 minutes. They're yours. Go wild, go nuts. Tell us what's on your mind. Get that burden off your soul. Share a message with your fellow listeners. Most importantly, tell us whether we can use your name and or message on air. And if you have other stuff you want to throw to us, we love it when people write it all out. We read every email you get. All you have to do is drop us a line at our good old-fashioned address where we are.
Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com. Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.